Hello, everyone. My name is Stefania Marchina, and I currently serve as Executive Director of the United Nations Association San Diego chapter. I'm almost at my 1 year mark in this position. I started on March 2020, so I am extremely excited to host you tonight at our 2021 annual membership meeting. And just quickly, before I pass the mic on to our incredible president, Bettina Hausmann, I need to ask, is there any Star Wars fans here with us? Let me see some thumbs up in the meeting, having some people, some reactions. Well, I asked this because Rogue One, a spin-off series that Disney made from the Star Wars original series, is one of my favorite movies. It really speaks to my heart. And that is because I do believe rebellions are built on hope. And you may see yourself as a rebel or not. Let me tell you something. If you wake up every morning or some mornings thinking or feeling that the things going on in the world are not right, that inequality should be unacceptable, that violence should cease to exist, and that climate action was urgent yesterday, then for me, whoever you are, you're a rebel. And even more, if you've taken action in any way, however big or small, just being at this meeting today or watching this recorded later on, sharing something on social media, going to a rally, or doing much bigger things, I believe it is because you're also driven by hope. Hope for a fair, equitable, and sustainable society. And hope to me is that thing that unites us as volunteers, as advocates, or supporters of the mission of the United Nations. But absolutely, hope is not enough, right? We need to take action. And most importantly, action in partnership, together. The theme tonight is a call for global cooperation and solidarity. And in that spirit is that reflecting on 2020, that was just much more than challenging, to say the least. But still seeing all of you here today, stronger, resilient, persistent, is exactly what we want to be the takeaway from this meeting and this reflection on our achievements and programs from 2020. How have we adapted, grown, and how are we looking into 2021? So without further ado, I have the pleasure to introduce you tonight to our president, Bettina Hausmann. Growing in East Germany, Bettina's early adulthood was shaped by Cold War era politics and leaving that life behind the Iron Curtain. Those personal experiences resulted in her strong sense of community that we all have witnessed if we know her, and an understanding of the importance of the collective. A frequent delegate to United Nations high-level plenary meetings, Bettina attended the historic UN conference, Rio Plus 20, that gave birth to the Global Sustainable Development Goals. She's a subject expert matter on the SDGs and recently started consulting the city of San Diego on localizing these goals and the global agendas into our San Diego community. An innovative and energetic leader, Ms. Hausmann earned degrees in political science and international relations. She currently lives in San Diego with her partner and is actively engaged not only in UNA San Diego, but in the board of countless organizations that champion global citizenship and social justice. Bettina, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stefania, for the inspirational opening and action and for hosting us here today. Themed Initiating Change, a Call for Global Cooperation Solidarity, this year's membership meeting seeks to set the tone for our programs and initiatives, leaning strongly on our collective experiences of the past year. The COVID-19 pandemic that we all experiencing and continue to experience across the globe, no matter our geography, eliminates the essence of Dr. Luther King's famous words that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. With nearing a year of the global pandemic, we must rise the illusion of our security. Whether we are confronting a pandemic, global warming, income inequality, race or gender-based violence, solidarity depends on how we come together. Over this month, we have seen and experienced unparalleled acts of generosity, kindness, and moments of beauty. Entire operas were sung on the balcony of Italy. There were salutes for our workers, our healthcare workers from New York City. There were food services delivered to low-income households throughout the world. People supporting each other in these difficult times. And yet, as we slowly emerge from this crisis and the vaccine becomes available, it seems that the earth is one, yet the world is not. As we celebrated the United Nations 75th anniversary in October, we are reminded that those who built the United Nations 75 years ago lived through a pandemic, a global depression, genocide, and a world war. They witnessed firsthand the price of disharmony and saw the value of nations uniting. Their response was visionary, centered around a people-founding UN charter that led to world leaders committing to international cooperation and the rule of law. As we bear witness to how the global pandemic reshapes the world that we know, we too are provided with this opportunity to rethink our values and intentions and to re-narrate the stories we tell about where we belong and with whom we share responsibility. The very future of humankind in the post-COVID era lies with all of us to choose active actions rooted in global solidarity and collaboration. Humanity, we as a whole, will emerge stronger from COVID-19. Local and global governance will get better through reforms. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and sustainable development will usher us into a world where truly no one is left behind, where the earth and the world is one. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Bettina, for such inspiring words and an amazing recap of 2020. I will now move on into our annual reporting and some of the expectations you might have for 2021. As you already heard, our theme for 2021 is initiate change after building that resilience to adapt to the changing times that we have, calling for that global cooperation and solidarity. 2020 was definitely a different year for all of us. I've compiled a few pictures here of a few of our programs that we're very proud of, that we continue to be very active in the virtual sphere, even though we haven't seen each other in person since March 2020, which is just crazy to think when, thinking back of 2019 or 2018, we were, together in the same space in person almost every weekend, tabling at events, creating other events. Of course, we had some programs in the virtual sphere, but we were constantly at our office in meetings. It's just insane how much things changed. But seeing how much we also adapted and continued our work with many of our partners makes us very proud and in a really positive mindset for 2021. We went absolutely and fully virtual overnight. And two campaigns that we're very proud of, that our social media team, a shout out to Morelia, Alexis, Brianna, and Kelly, that are part of that creative team, were What to Watch and SD Jams. They both connect popular culture from movies, documentaries, and YouTube videos and songs to the Sustainable Development Goals. We have our playlist on YouTube, and you can scroll to our Instagram and Facebook and find information about this. We actually had 18 virtual events during 2020, more than one a month. With more than 1,500 attendees, of course, each event is different. Some have, between the 20 to 30, 50 range. Some have 500 or more, and some others, since they are recorded, they have videos, and they remain on social media or Facebook or YouTube, many people have been able to watch them. So there are some pros into going virtual, of course. During the year, we had 30 active partnerships, and we are really proud to always keep collaborating and engaging with others in San Diego, such a powerful community for advocacy and the localization of the global sustainable development goals. We had more than 10 social media campaigns, more than one campaign a month sometimes, ranging from moving people to vote, from Black Lives Matter, supporting DACA, raising awareness overall about what are the SDGs, um, promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, supporting the elimination of violence against women, supporting youth, just so many things that I truly encourage you to check our links below when you see this recording in YouTube for our social media channels. We even had more than 100,000 impressions in the last quarter only. So this is meaning, we are in finishing January 2021. This is meaning from November to now, just that. We are on Twitter, we are on LinkedIn, we are on Instagram, on Facebook, and of course on YouTube. As I was saying, we had 30 active partnerships, and our events ranged from multiple ways of engaging in climate action, supporting human rights, and promoting equity. Equity in race, equity in gender, equity in income, equity in age. We are very proud of this focus because it was one of our main goals for 2020, and then ended up being that we made it happen through our multiple campaigns. For instance, we visited most of our representatives virtually via Zoom, but we still knocked their doors in supporting a broader access to internet, enabling people to access telehealth and of course school, and so many things that just have gone into the virtual sphere where you need good broadband access to be able to live stream, meet with your doctor, be at school, work. We had our amazing 5K run with Pride San Diego, where we met virtually via Zoom. We had music and we all ran our walk together. And of course, I couldn't stop spotlighting our partner Feeding San Diego, where we endorsed their campaign for Hunger Action Month. I would like to highlight a couple of our annual events that were very important for us. One is our third civil society consultation in the history of our chapter, which we're actually turning 75 years old this year. It's just incredible. We've been in San Diego since 1946, just a year after the United Nations was created. And this 2020 actually was the 75th anniversary of the UN. And the Secretary General made a call for all society to get together and discuss key topics that can shape the UN's agenda going forward in the next 20 years. So, since we are the ambassadors of the UN in San Diego, we got together with multiple sectors of our society to ask them about their vision of the world by 2040. And we had an amazing conversation, which is all recorded on YouTube. It's a 2-hour conversation, but it has time marks that you can go in and check what you're interested in. And we also had our amazing member, Heath Fox, help us systematize all of this into a written document that was sent to our national office, UNA USA, and to the UN itself. And on the 75th General Assembly that occurred on September 2020, all of the world's conversations and civil consultations were taken into account into shaping the UN's agenda. So we're extremely powerful and proud of being that voice of our community to the UN and also bringing the UN to our community. Just moving my face around here so you can see our third civil society consultation and all of those voices that we had together. Another event that I would love to highlight is our UN Day. Each year we celebrate the United Nations birthday. In 2020, as I was saying, it was the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. So we were reflecting on the past, the current situation, and of course, moving forward into progress. So we had a few things going on in this celebration. One was the reenactment of the signing of the UN Charter, which was an incredible event done virtually via Zoom in a ceremonial manner where countries recommitted to the UN Charter and its vision. We did this in collaboration with the House of Pacific Relations in Balboa Park. Thank you very much for everyone who participated that day. It's also available on our YouTube channel. You can watch the full recording. A second program that we had for the day was our 2020 Sustainable Development Advocates. This is the first year that we recognize individuals that embody the Sustainable Development Goals in San Diego in their daily practice. We chose people from different generations and backgrounds. You can see their names here, and you can also see their live interviews on our Instagram. So we had them take over our Instagram account for a day, share their work with us, and we had an interview so that all of you could know a little bit more about them. Here are pictures of more of our events through the year, more of our social media campaigns, collaborations with Earth Day, with San Diego 350, A Path Forward with the National Center for Conflict Resolution, Singularity U for the Expo Youth San Diego, where our president spoke to young students from the age 7 to 12, our amazing UN info sessions that are also on our YouTube channel, and our incredible video for World Humanitarian Day, where we celebrated essential workers in our community. Here a little bit more. World Refugee Day was also a big event we had with many organizations of our community being represented. We also did legislation advocacy. We inquired with our candidate representatives that are now in Congress about their focus on the SDGs. And we had an amazing youth advisory board. This is a body from ages 15 to 18 that advise on our programs from a youth perspective. So that's why you can see we're evolving and getting more hip every day with all of this support. Of course, we hosted our Adult Model United Nations as each year. And finally, I just want to close the report with a little bit more about the Sustainable Development Goals. They cross through all of our programs, and we only have 10 more years to achieve the SDGs. And there is progress, absolutely, but there's still a long way to go. That's why within this framework of 17 powerful goals, I will move my camera so you can see a little bit more. We keep working to advocate for this, to translate them into the local context, and to make them a reality in San Diego. That's why today, in synchrony with our national office, UNA USA, we are launching MySDGDream, building from Martin Luther King Jr. famous speech. We're bringing this to the SDGs and daring to dream for a sustainable future. But dreaming is not enough, such as hoping is not enough. We need to build resilience to adapt to the changing times. We need to take action. We need to cultivate solidarity because action alone is not going to take us where we want. And lastly, we need to partner with others. So with that note, with that tone, is that we're going into 2021 full force, and that today I have the pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speakers. With an emphasis of an intergenerational and diverse work that knits together our San Diego community, we will start today hearing from Kyla Osborne, who was born and raised in San Diego and recently graduated from the Academy of Our Lady of Peace. She is currently a freshman in college, majoring in political science. Activism was first brought to her attention in her sophomore year of high school, when she participated in a march honoring the Birmingham Children's Crusade. She took leadership positions in school that primarily focused on diversity and inclusion, regarding students, staff, and faculty. And now she hopes to find a fulfilling career that sheds light into the same passions. Kyla, welcome.
Was the Birmingham Children's Crusade that took place in Alabama. And basically, we were honoring the children that were marching and protesting for their civil rights, and specifically desegregation in the South. And this took place around the 60s. And just being there, being surrounded by so many people that actually looked like me, gave me a true sense of identity and community. And it really inspired me to bring that back to San Diego. So coming back from Alabama, I decided that I wanted to be more involved with my school. So I knew that it wasn't going to be a piece of cake because I did attend a predominantly all white, all girls Catholic school. So it did present challenges in and of itself. But my first solution was to sort of build a relationship with the administration, with the principals and the assistant principals. And that led me to getting involved with student leadership, basically ASB. And that's where I became the very first commissioner of diversity and inclusion. And from there, I was able to start planning school events as well as incorporating knowledge about current events and the state of our country to the students, staff, and faculty. And then we also did have a really cool idea to started planning a multicultural fair, but because of COVID, that kind of got put on pause. So hopefully next year we'll be able to continue with that. But I say all this um, because school was my first attempt to set a realistic goal to advocate to my peers about racial injustices in our country and also just teaching basic knowledge about other cultures. And I wanted girls at my school to understand that you don't have to be of somebody's culture in order to stand with them and take the time to educate yourself and to educate others. And most girls that I interacted with didn't know a lot of things. They said things that they didn't know were offensive. So I think that's why Black Lives Matter could not have come at such an appropriate time, because it was such a extreme wake-up call for our country in general. It made us question, hey, we're not a perfect country, and racism is still very much alive today. Black men and women experiencing police brutality and inequality is nothing new, unfortunately. It's just now being recorded, it's now being televised, it's now being posted on social media. And it's also quite frightening to think about how some people in this country think that racism was so long ago that we're way past that. When in reality, minorities, American minorities, didn't get the opportunity to vote and participate in the election until 1965. So my point is, as a young Black girl in America, I felt like it would be a disservice to myself, to others, to my family, my ancestors, my community, if I just remained docile and let good people die at the hands of our policemen, to be quite honest with you. So in the summer, I decided to participate in peaceful protests and rally up a bunch of my friends. And that also created such a meaningful sense of community and unity with people who are my age. And to be honest with you, a lot of the marches and protests that I participated in were all organized by the youth, people in high school, people a little bit older than me, but nonetheless, they were young. And because of COVID, we couldn't really meet in person. So a lot of us relied on the outlets of social media like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat was a big platform that we could use to communicate what was going on. And the petitions that we wanted to get signed, the different marches, the different peaceful protests that we wanted other people to be involved in. And it's kind of interesting to think about because social media can have such a negative stigma around it because people can see it as just a pleasure thing, or it can be seen as a brainless activity for young kids to just stay occupied. And honestly, if it had not been for the social media platforms, a lot of the announcements, the flyers, the schedule changes that had to do with these marches, it would have been so difficult to get out to the public. And what I would do was research on mainly Instagram, because there are a lot of accounts created, especially for the San Diego County, where you could research the marches and protests that were going on in our area. And they were from Torrey Pines to North Park, El Cajon, Chula Vista, you name it, they were everywhere. And a lot of people, myself, we had our phones out, recording, taking videos, taking pictures, and then we would post that on our social media platforms, and that would get other people more involved. So it was kind of like a ripple effect, all thanks to these different outlets that we call social media. Apps like TikTok mainly and Instagram, I'd say, have given my generation and people close to my age a platform to speak about our personal experiences and the injustices that we've experienced, whether that be in school, in the workplace, or just life in general. And in 2020, several people like myself turned 18 last year, and it's perfect timing for the presidential election. And when I tell you, I have never seen this amount of promotion to push young people to go vote. And that was all at the hands of social media, all on Instagram, all on Snapchat, all on TikTok, creators pushing other people to go vote. And there were a bunch of information about the props that I had no idea about. And I could go on Instagram, look at the props, what it would mean if I said yes or no, and then I could repost it so my followers can get that information, get the knowledge for themselves. And then it's a ripple effect to educate the people that are following them. So because of social media, I honestly think that BLM grabbed the attention of millions of people and became a global movement, and increased voter turnouts immensely compared to previous turnouts before. And my last thing that I'd like to share is my sustainable development goal, my SDG, which is to reconstruct the prison system. And I believe that though you are incarcerated, you're still a human being and you still deserve the right to vote in your country. So that would be my SDG, my goal for 2030, and also to allow prison systems to be a form of rehabilitation and to allow citizens to rebuild themselves so that they can be successful when they re-enter society. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much to you, Kyla. That was just, it gave me chills, because exactly social media is seen as such a superficial thing, and it can be, but you have shown us how it is a powerful tool to change an election, something as big, or just to get the word out to millions of people of what others experience that we might have no idea about. So thank you so much again. I will now move forward to introduce Doctor in Education, Shawntanet Jara, who began her career as an elementary school teacher and as a nationally board certified early childhood generalist. After teaching in the classroom, she served as an assistant principal and principal. She received her doctorate in educational leadership at UC San Diego and CSU San Marcos. Her research interests lie at the intersection of culturally responsive and sustaining teaching and social emotional learning. She is currently a principal and a part-time lecturer of educational administration at our California State University, San Marcos. She is the 2016 recipient of the Christ Peel's Doctoral Fellowship in Educational Leadership at UC San Diego
and a 2012 District Teacher of the Year. Without further ado, I leave you with Shawntanet.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight, and what an honor to follow Kyla. Your words and wisdom will move mountains, and so I'm honored to be able to share this space with you, and wish that I was I don't know, 30 years younger, so that I could partner up with you as a peer. But since I can't do that, maybe we can partner up as colleagues. So kudos and hats off to you, Kyla. Keep doing the good work. That's hard work too. So thank you so much for being here, for allowing me to be here. So tonight's theme is create change, build resilience, a call for global cooperation and solidarity. And as I thought about this theme, the first image that came to mind was our youth, was our children. They are the masters at change, always anticipating the next thing and hopeful of the unknown. Resilience is their middle name, for they know no other way to operate. This call for global cooperation and solidarity sounds like a lofty goal, but indeed it is quite simple to attain. We must look to our youth, like Kyla. We must observe how they respond to the world with quick adaptability, quick forgetfulness of failure, and quick resolve to move on. A poem that I so love is by the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran, and it is titled On Children. And if you will allow me, I'd like to read it to you. He says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer seeks the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. And so, as I read those words, I reflected on my role as a principal and an educator. We must be the bow, semi-rigid, projecting the arrow, the student, into the direction of greatness. To shoot, the archer must pull back the arrow and the bowstring, which in turn flexes the bow's limbs, storing elastic energy. We, the educators and adults, determine what that energy is comprised of. Is it energy that empowers our students, that no matter what they are facing, whether it's a pandemic or civil unrest or both simultaneously, that they will fly and thrive and soar to a place that we cannot imagine? Or is it energy that seeks to compromise their flight, prevents them from taking off by subjecting them to a reality that we have created? Typically, while maintaining the draw of the arrow, the archer sights along the arrow to aim it. Where are we aiming it? Have we done enough of our own work as adults to propel them in a direction of unity, cooperation, and solidarity? Finally, the archer releases or loosens the arrow, allowing the limb's stored potential energy to convert into kinetic energy, which is transmitted from the bowstring to the arrow, propelling it to fly forward with high velocity. We influence the direction of that velocity toward change or just more of the same. As a school principal, I'm experiencing many opportunities where I have to make a decision to approach being a bow with angst or with reverence. Today's social conditions require a new courage, a new way of understanding the world, a new way of responding to it. I have been on a roller coaster of defining schooling and defining teaching and learning, all within the backdrop of a global pandemic and social unrest. My bow quivers much less now than it has in the past, and it is a work in progress to steady the bow. The arrows, our children, depend on the steadiness of our bow. So we have work to do. My work as the archer has been to keep my sights on love and joy. But guess what? The arrow already knows this. The arrows innately propel toward love and joy. They were made to do just that. So whether that's having to wear facial coverings for 6 hours of the day, or understanding that friendship has no racial barriers, our arrows come ready to operate with resilience, empathy, and adaptability. It's the bow that must watch and learn from the arrow, for the arrow will go swift and far into creating the change that our world so desperately needs. Thank you so much. And to follow up, my SDG goal is really equity for all, that every student can enter this space of teaching and learning as their full self. Nothing that they're leaving at the door. They are bringing every ounce of who they are with them, and that energy is waiting for them. They were expecting you to show up in your full human, and that's what my goal is. So thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Shawntanet. As a future teacher and current executive director where I oversee your programs, your work really touched my heart, because it is really our job to lay that ground for those to come that will do the unimaginable for us. And definitely we have much work to do, especially in bending ourselves and adapting, because as you said, they come adapted and with so much flexibility and a way of seeing the world that it's hard for us to understand, but that we can learn if we have the openness. With that, I will move on into introducing you today to Erik Caldwell. Thank you so much, Erik, for agreeing on such short notice to participate today with us as a keynote speaker. Erik is Chief Sustainability Office of the City of San Diego, leading the implementation of its ambitious efforts to reduce its greenhouse emissions. Under Erik's leadership, the city's implementation efforts are focused on increasing the energy and water efficiency of facilities, furthering the use of renewable energy, expanding transit, and alternative mobility choices, which we desperately need in San Diego for sure, diverting waste away from our landfill and preparing the city for the impacts of climate change. San Diego's sustainability team is recognized nationally and internationally as an innovator in exploring how technology, renewable energy, mobility, climate resilience, and creative financing can accelerate San Diego's transition into a post-carbon future. I truly hope to see that. Prior to taking on to the CSO role, Erik served in various other leadership positions within the city and the private sector. Erik, you have the floor.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here with you all this evening, and I always enjoy talking about what we're doing at the City of San Diego, especially to this organization, an organization that's mission and focus, and all of you are gathered here because you want to be a part of changing the world. And myself and the 11,000 other people that work at the City of San Diego, that's what we wake up to do every morning as well. We're engaged in public service because we believe in being a part of an organization that's helping to change the world and make it a better place. Our little small part of it here in San Diego. The city has provided many opportunities for me to do that, both in this current role as well as other roles that I've had. And what I really like about the sustainability work is that the amount of impact that it has and that ability to change the world. I think what's really exciting over the last 2 months is that we've had a change in leadership at the City of San Diego with a new mayor coming on board. And our sustainability team is super excited about Todd Gloria being our new mayor. City leaders for a long time, as Stefania mentioned, the city has a long history of leading and being a forward-thinking city on issues related to climate. But I think our current mayor is as a climate warrior, just like everyone on my team, and that's super exciting. So we're pulling together this year. 2020 was a horrible year, but 2021 is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of fun because of the new leadership and the energy and the opportunities that we have. So for this year, we're really focused on a couple things. First and foremost, we want to update our climate action plan. It was created 5 years ago. When we created it, it was forward thinking. San Diego received a lot of accolades for being one of the first large cities, both in California as well in the United States, to put out an ambitious climate action plan that would significantly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions down to half of what they were in 1990 by 2050. And we were further recognized for being bold and ambitious. We were the largest city in the United States to have a 100% renewable energy goal by 2035 in our climate action plan. So we want to update it. It's time, even though it was just done a few years ago, we want to update that. We also want to continue to support San Diego Clean Power. We were one of the jurisdictions that were the founding members around creating a nonprofit entity that will purchase clean renewable energy for all San Diegans. And the City of San Diego is going to continue to support that and actually be one of the largest customers of the CCA in receiving all of our energy through 100% renewable energy. We are one of the largest producers of renewable energy ourselves in the region and want to continue that and looking at our buildings and really leading by example. So finding opportunities where we as an organization with the buildings that our 11,000 employees work in, getting those to zero carbon before the rest of the community does, and really showing that it's possible and demonstrating some real leadership in how you do that. And of course, continuing to grow local contractors and companies that will develop the technologies to do that. And then I think what really gets me excited when you think about our mayor and our new city council that have recently come into office is really being bold and bolder in a lot of the policies that we're achieving. So when you think about sustainable development goals and those 17 things, initiatives, those are really the things that cities do. When you look around the world, it should be thought of more as a report card for cities. And so if a city is doing what city government should do, what municipal government should do around the world, you should be able to pull out the sustainable development goals and really have a good understanding of whether or not a jurisdiction is meeting the needs of the people, regardless of what country in the world you're looking at. And when I look through those 17 goals, and I look through the work that I've done and others are doing in the city of San Diego, whether it's really rethinking and redefining what sustainability means. In the role that I had prior to this, I worked on economic development and economic inclusion, and constantly looking at how you get more people engaged and active in our economy. You know, sustainability and mobility go hand in hand. And so I'm really excited about finding some opportunities where we can really continue to push the envelope, both in not just in getting the sustainable development goals across the finish line and getting our city council and mayor to formally adopt them on behalf of the city of San Diego, but really continuing to push the envelope in the policies that we're putting in place that drive consistent change. So we can do all of these things in 12 months. Like I said, 2021, it's a brand new year. We're putting 2020 behind us. This mayor is just getting started. He's got another, you know, he's at the very beginning of his term. And we're going to continue to face big challenges and face inertia as we attempt to drive big change. One of the biggest changes that we want to drive with the climate action plan update is moving it away from setting just goals, but actually having for carbon reduction, but really setting the ultimate goal for carbon reduction, which is a zero carbon economy. We want to look at some of those initiatives that we've done with our own buildings and really accelerate that change and really lead by example. And then of course, when you set a zero carbon goal, it means everything that you're doing as it relates to implementation of that zero carbon goal, you've really got to step it up and redouble your efforts. So getting more aggressive with the policies that we're putting into place. So in terms of this organization and all of you that are listening today, when I talk about that inertia and the obstacles that we'll face during just the course of this year and executing on this agenda, I would love to have all of you add your voice to the usual suspects that are usually talking about and engaging in the conversation around sustainability. City Hall is getting bombarded constantly with people who are voicing their opinions and expectations as it relates to what we should do. But it always pains me to see the lack of diversity and representation across all communities and viewpoints as it relates to helping the city set that agenda. So that's my big ask for you today, is that I know all of you are climate warriors too. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. But I need you to be vocal, to reach out and do that proactively and reactively as well. Everyone's really good at calling City Hall when you're mad and fired up because we got it wrong. But help us get it right the first time too. Be there when City Council is talking about a new policy initiative. Proactively reach out to your City Council members and speak from the heart. Tell them what sustainability means to you, especially if we're talking about the sustainable development goals and moving sustainability just beyond people thinking about it in terms of climate, but around all of those 17 sustainable development goals. We really need to do a much better job of educating policymakers that that's the direction that we want to move in, that it's not a small group of people who believe in those 17 goals, but that's the expectations that all of their citizens have in the city of San Diego. So my big San Diego or sustainable development green dream for 2030 is that it's just that sustainability isn't just about the environment. It becomes part of everything that we do. We're thinking about how we operate our cities, how we live through the lens of sustainability. And if we can do that, that's going to last generations in terms of the impact that we leave behind. So thank you.
Thank you, Erik. And we're truly excited to have you in office. We look forward to work with your office and the general programming with the city on sustainable development goals. And I shared your dream. I also wish for sustainability to mean a much broader agenda for most people. I will move on to presenting Lisa Bain, who is a former volunteer of us. Lisa right now is the Deputy Director of the U.S. and Border Programs Office of Project Concern International. an international development organization that was founded in San Diego more than 50 years ago. After serving in the Peace Corps in South Africa, Lisa returned to San Diego and began volunteering with the United Nations Association San Diego chapter, including serving as a board member. Thanks to her time with UNASD, she was introduced to PCI and participated in the Commission on the Status of Women, a trip that ultimately resulted in her meeting her husband. Really outstanding story, Lisa. She got later on her master's degree in public health at UCLA and currently oversees programs that work to address health disparities in San Diego. Lisa, have the mic.
I just want to say it's great to reconnect with UNA because I've departed some years ago. I left, I moved to LA to get my graduate degree and haven't had the chance to reconnect. But there are people that I'm familiar with here. Joanne, it's nice to see you, both from the old days and from the new days. Carol Wiggins, hi, we were in the same workshop today. We work to achieve equity in birth outcomes for San Diego. So it's really fantastic to connect. Okay, so now it's letting me share. Oops, I'm looking at all my emails. All right. And I also want to acknowledge that I have two colleagues here. Of course, Bettina and I happen to work together, not closely, but for the same organization. And my colleague Jamat is here as well. I didn't plan this, but it so happens that she's also featured here in this lovely picture in the lower right corner. So thank you both for being here and being great colleagues. I'm going to flip it and start with my SDG dream. So my personal thing, my passion is health, public health. And so of course I have to focus on those. So my SDG dream is to achieve excellent health through reduced inequity and access to quality healthcare. That's what I really love, making sure all populations get the high quality care that for the most part, the US is known for. But I'm also really concerned with a healthy global ecosystem. Even though health is my thing, I really, really worry that if we don't focus and prioritize on the global ecosystem, everything else we do will be in vain, right? And Stefania started us with the, the quote from Star Wars, and I like to talk about it as Game of Thrones. I don't know if there's any Game of Thrones lovers out there, right? But the big theme is there's a serious problem and nobody's paying attention to it, right? There's all of these White Walkers, but everybody's busy focusing on smaller issues. And if they don't band together and work on the big issue, there's going to be a big problem. So that's kind of how I feel about climate change. We really have to all work together to achieve that so that we can accomplish everything else, but without it, it will be in vain. I could talk for a long time about our organization and our programs, and I don't really want to do that. I'm going to flip through my slides kind of casually and invite questions for discussion later, but just, for background, we are a global humanitarian organization. We were founded here in San Diego by a local doctor in Coronado who's, fantastic. Oh, but we also have community serving programs here in San Diego, and that's what I'll spend most of my time on. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that PCI announced this year a merger with a very similar organization called Global Communities, and so we're in the middle of that. And that's going to position us to do really great things, working in about 36 countries, which, is just fantastic. And of course, because of that, organizationally, we're all about the SDGs and global partnership to achieve better outcomes. But I spend my time on local programs. So what do I want to say about that and the SDG&E? My husband works for SDG&E. That's not good enough. So what do you need to know about our local work? So I already shared, we were founded here in San Diego. We have deep roots, not only in San Diego, but also Tijuana, which was, the first kind of public health work that we did and medical health work that we did as an organization. And, we still meet people, who went to our well baby clinics in Tijuana or participated in our Walk for Water events, or it was then called Walk for Mankind in the 60s. And so we have a long history here. We're not very big or necessarily well known, but we do have deep roots here in a lot of different types of programs that are in perfect alignment with global goals. Currently, some of our local active programs, I'm going to share about 4 of them. So we do human trafficking prevention work. We really carve out the prevention side of things, in particular focusing on youth and empowering youth to have the skills and resources needed, so that they don't become victims of trafficking. San Diego's a hot spot. In my slides, I try to drop some of the SDGs down here. So of course they touch on more than this, but in trafficking prevention, really addressing gender equity, peace and justice, and partnerships. We have some collective programming, bringing youth providers together to find creative ways to address trafficking. And recently this year, we launched our E3 Alliance, which is bringing businesses together to understand their role and in preventing trafficking. So that's really exciting. The project that I spend most of my time on, and Jamaat spends all of her time on, is Healthy Start, which is a national initiative to address disparities in birth outcomes. And this it's just the best work ever. I could show you cute baby pictures all day, but Healthy Start is funded to address what we know about disparities in the United States. Not only is the US behind other nations in infant mortality rates, we perform worse than other nations, and so we have to address that that disparity, but also within the US, there are giant disparities for different populations. And so Healthy Start is really all about eliminating those disparities. And the way we do it, every Healthy Start is different, but we have an unbelievable team of multicultural staff who provide free prenatal and childbirth education, postpartum and breastfeeding support. We provide access to midwives and doulas and mental health services, all to achieve better health outcomes right here in San Diego. And in particular, those disparities are greatest in San Diego for, a category which is just defined as Black in San Diego. But we know that the Black community in San Diego isn't monolithic, that it's very diverse. It includes not only African Americans, but also a significant portion of Black immigrant communities. And in particular, we serve the Somali and Haitian communities. And so a big thing that I always like to say, if you're concerned with global health, global humanitarian assistance, well, you don't need to look any further than our backyard, because all of those communities are actually right here in San Diego. And just because they're here in San Diego doesn't mean their challenges have gone away. So Healthy Start allows us to do this. I'm not going to spend time on this, but spoiler alert, the United States is way behind other nations. And within the US, we have big gaps in things that, we really shouldn't accept. We also do some partnership work. We bring partners together through our community action network, and we do some workforce development activities. So we're working to make sure that women from underserved communities are trained and providing service as childbirth educators, doulas, and lactation educators, because all people deserve quality perinatal health care service, right? Every person deserves childbirth education if they want it, but only some people are getting it. And so we're getting it in respectful and non-discriminatory ways. And so we're trying to fill that gap. I'm not going to spend too much time on these. Human-centered design and quality improvement in U.S.-Mexico border states, working with clinic partners. And we are a partner to the County of San Diego, providing contact tracing services. And the thing maybe we're most proud of is that we do it in more than a dozen languages. So we have hired local community members to do this contact tracing in all of these languages and really provide the culturally and language appropriate services to prevent the spread of COVID-19. I'm going to escape from here. I don't want to share anymore. I'm just going to stop there. I shared a lot of, you know, what I had to share. But yeah, I guess my final thoughts are just that the Sustainable Development Goals don't only apply to other nations, they apply to the US. I feel I chatted into Erik. You know, the US, we're so egocentric. And we tend to do our own thing, right? Like, so sadly, in our world, I think that in the public health world, we don't talk about sustainable development goals and world health indicators. We develop our own, right? We have Healthy People 2030. These are great things, but we're not leveraging and aligning to the extent that we could. Of course, speaking with you all is like preaching to the choir because we're ready to do it. But there is still a lot to be done and work to reach out to other people and help them understand where that alignment is. So I know that you all get it, and it's great to be with you. And I'm just going to stop there.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We get it, but we need to keep spreading the word, right? And I absolutely love how you made that connection of how global San Diego is. And our binational culture in San Diego is just no escape from that. We are a society with a huge refugee community, immigrant community, with that everyday crossing with San Diego and Tijuana. Tijuana has more San Diegans living in there every day. So it's truly a passion for global development is at home. I will leave you with Bettina for closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Stefania. Just really a huge thanks to Stefania for putting this all together. Her first annual membership meeting all on her own and bringing such fantastic speakers together. And I really just want to leave you with a quote. I'm not sure if you know Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince, which is a really famous French philosophical novel. And let's see how that sounds in English actually. What makes the desert beautiful is that it hides a well somewhere. So meaning really, you see the desert as something maybe really empty of something, of everything, but it really hides a well, something that we need, something beautiful. And I hope that we take that with us to understand that the situation that we find ourselves in might seem really very helpless and maybe at times really makes us feel that there is no hope. And to see it really from, as Stefania set it up, with resilience that we have built, the understanding that together we really overcome this, to find that well within, that we come out stronger and really see that at the end of the day, really our collective is what brings us, humankind, forward, and really the love for one another, how important that is, and how we learned really, how we reached out across borders, particularly in these times of the crisis, to connect with one another. So let's be that well for one another, and for sure, stay connected with us, and hopefully you become a member of ours. If not, come to our meetings and our events,
And we would love to partner with you in your endeavors within the community and abroad. And again, thank you so much for being with us, and congratulations, Stefania. That was a fun exercise and a really great informative meeting. Thank you, everyone.